Always remember when dealing with food and food products that you have to wash your hands thoroughly before serving or preparing the food. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Season both sides because you're going to be flipping both sides while they're on the grill. You'll spend about 45 minutes on one side, 45 minutes on the other. And the heat will sink from the top, season into the meat. So you season both sides so that way both sides the heat sinks the season in. Like I said earlier, you put these on indirect heat, which means our heat is over here, and we're putting the ribs over here. Close the flap, set it and forget it. Beef briskets. This is a 15-pound beef brisket. It cooks for a slow smoke for 24 hours on indirect heat. When it comes out, you cut it against the grain and it will be so moist it'll taste like butter going in your mouth. The brisket has a bark because it cooks for a long time on indirect heat at a low heat. It cooks between 120 to 200 degrees for 24 hours. So that seals your juices in, but it also sears the outside, which is mostly fat, and that's what gives it the bark. Now we're coming to where the end cut is. This is like the most valued part of the brisket for some people. They wait for the fat end of the brisket. In fact, I have one guy who always says, "Save me the fat end of the brisket." Where a lot of the fat and the juice mix together with the meat, and it has a special taste. Not quite fried, but not quite baked like most of the brisket is. Grilled, I should say. Just like with most red meat, you always want to cut it after it's rested for a while. After you bring it off the heat, you let it sit, you let it cool down, and then you cut it. That way, it maintains most of the juice and most of the flavor in the meat. And right before you go to serve it, if need be, heat it back up already sliced. And then that way, you've got a nice, moist, juicy cut of meat, and it didn't dry out.
Keep it nice and cool until you're ready to put it in the oven. Put it in the oven, warm it up, and then serve it. Don't cook it after it's been cooked, just warm it up. Be nice, juicy, and tender.
This meat over here has been on the grill for about a half hour now. As you can see, it's starting to cook. Flavors are starting to come up on top. The oil is, and it's catching the spices and sinking back down. That's what we were talking about earlier. How the spices will cook into the meat. That's how come we season both sides of the meat. These right here have been on a little bit over, I would say a little bit over an hour and a half now, so these are practically done, these three here that you see in front. These ribs over here, you can see what they call sweating because they're already cooking. The oil is rising to the top, the seasoning is going in right now. That's the effects of smoking on indirect heat. You're not grilling the meat, you're smoking it. Your smoke is going through the meat, drawing the seasons in. These have been on for about a half hour, so that's why they look like this. These have been on for an hour and a half. These are ready to come off because you see when the meat starts backing off the bone, that's backed off about a 1/4 inch. That's how you can tell the meat is done. When you're cooking ribs, as they get done, you want to move them farther away from the fire. I had them about right here on the grill, and the grill was real hot. So the ones that are already done or close to being done, I moved all the way over here on the second shelf. That way it'll slow down their cooking. They'll still be able to get that smoky flavor from the smoke, but they won't cook as fast as when they were here. This is how your baby backs look when they're all the way done. As you can see, the bone is showing that indentation between the meat. On the other side, you can see the bone is sticking out about 1/8 of an inch. And you can tell they're done. You don't want them to get any doner than that, because then pork will start frying when you overcook it. It'll get hard and it'll taste like bacon. So these are done right here. These are ready to go in the warmer where they'll stop cooking, but they'll stay nice and hot. As you can see it cut, they're still juicy, they're very moist, very hot. You see the meat hangs onto the bone. If the meat was dried out when you cut, you would get part of the meat that would fall right off the bone with it. But these are perfectly done. These are LJ's ribs, and you can only get them at St. Andrews on Friday night unless you special order. These ribs you really don't even need sauce for. We'll give you sauce, but they are seasoned just right. Most people eat them without the sauce. Yeah, I wish everybody had smell-o-vision, because see the texture? You can tell smoked ribs over grilled ribs. The smoked ribs will always have that kind of grayish, pinkish look. A lot of people sometimes gets them confused with being undercooked. They're not undercooked, but just like a ham, it has been smoked and cured. So if you're having trouble eating pork, but you love pork, get the baby backs. They're more lean cut, less fat content, and they cook up a lot faster. This is the finished product. And even though they think they're getting it from a restaurant, they're getting it right here at St. Andrews.
That's what you call good.
Over here we have the baked beans that we have every Friday night when we're here from 5 to 8. All your sides come with baked beans and coleslaw. Those baked beans, they've been in the oven for 2 hours.
Thank you for this faith community, St. Andrews, where we can come and worship and pray and give praise to celebrate our faith. We want to thank you for those who prepared the food. We want to thank you for those who are here cooking it and serving it, and for all the blessings you've given us for our families. And we praise you, good Lord. Together, let's say, glory be to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and will be forever. Amen. Let's dig in and get something to eat. Okay?
Help yourselves.
Smells fantastic. Umphrey.
of LJ's Catering. And he is the one that does our Friday night barbecues and helps me in the catering here. I've asked him to present barbecue techniques, smoking, talk about what he does and how he does it, so we can learn a little bit. I will say his food looks to be fairly good. I don't know, how was it?
Wonderful.
Everybody like it? A little bit about me. I started barbecuing about 10 years ago, and our business has grown. We were doing a lot of stuff, and we just decided to dedicate ourselves to more barbecue than anything, and our business has grown phenomenally from there. We've also, over the years, have done prime rib, salmon. We're venturing out into other parts of catering now too, and it's starting to pick up. But barbecue is my passion. That's what I love to do. And I hope it comes through in the meals that you ate today. You know, first of all, I want to thank St. Andrews and Father George, Father Potter, and Steve for having me here. It was quite an adventure for us to be hooked up with you guys now, and we're loving it. When I say we, that's my wife, Lisa, back there in the kitchen, who hadn't come out yet, but I'm sure she will. But, you know, barbecue, there is no right or wrong way to do it. You know, we all have our own skills that we bring to it. I just prefer to do things a little bit different than other people. That doesn't make me right, that doesn't make you wrong. It's just my way of doing things. When I was talking to people over here, I was telling them the certain kind of charcoal I use or how I use direct heat. It doesn't make, if you grill direct on your heat, it doesn't make me use an indirect heat. It doesn't make you wrong. It's just a different way. I like to go slower. I like to cook my ribs a little bit longer at a slow thing. That way they don't dry out. You know, if you cook ribs at a high rate faster, you get drier rib. You know, if you see over here that the ribs were moist, they stay tasty. They were kind of pinkish in color, not because they're raw, but because they're smoked. A lot of people will sometimes say, hey, my ribs, I got ribs from you, and they weren't cooked all the way. They tasted done, but they look pink. And I have to tell people, you know, smoked ribs will give you that pinky taste, but they'll give you that gray ring around. And that's how you tell where they're done. Another way you can tell when they're done is the bone. You can see a little bit of the bone slide out. As the meat shrinks, more of the bone slides out. You only want to see about an 1/8 inch, no more than a 1/2 inch of the bone, and you know you're done. If you see the meat shrink all the way up the bone, you know you've overcooked it then. So that's one of the pointers. Brisket. How many of you all enjoyed the brisket tonight? Brisket is a slow cooked thing. That one cooked 24 hours. It's smoked at 250 degrees for 24 hours. That one was on yesterday. And briskets are a big piece of meat, and they have a big layer of fat around them. The way I do them is I put the spices, a dry rub, over the fat part. I put the fat part up. Put it on the grill on indirect heat, which means my heat is over here, the brisket's over here. And I just let it smoke for 24 hours. How many have seen a raw brisket before? So you know how big it is, and you know it takes a while for it to cook. But when you get it off the grill, it's shrank down about 25 to 35% of the size that you had when you put it on. And so that is, a lot of people consider that the hardest meat to cook. It's not the hardest meat to cook, because all you got to do is put it in there and forget it for 24 hours. Make sure you're using a great charcoal. How many use Kingford or Publix? How many use Publix charcoal? Worst charcoal to use. It's the cheapest, and it's the cheapest for that reason. When you use Kingford, you'll notice that it burns longer. You know, you can burn a whole bag of Publix charcoal and use 1/3 of a bag of Kingford for the same meat. You know, it just burns long, and you'll find out that the taste of the public charcoal will end up on whatever you're cooking. If you ever use that and you notice that your meat didn't taste quite right, it's because of your charcoal. I swear by Kingford. That's the only one I'll use now. It's because it's a great charcoal, it's odorless, and your meat will taste like it's supposed to taste. You know, on chicken, the only thing about chicken that I can tell you is try not to dry it out, you know. And chicken is very fine because you can either get it right or wrong. If you don't dry it out sometimes, then people say, oh, you undercooked it. And it's very easy to undercook chicken because it'll look so done, but then when you cut to the middle, you'll find that it's not done. So my word on that is, as you watch your chicken on the grill, you'll see that the blood and dripping. When that dripping turns clear, you pretty much know your chicken is done. If your chicken still has that bloody dripping coming through, leave it on there, you know, and control your heat. Don't let the outside get dry out and have the raw center, you know. Yes, sir.
I did notice on your brisket the beautiful smoke into the meat and everything from the slow cooking and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it was perfect.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the smoke ring goes all the way around the meat. It'll be pink and the meat will be gray. And that'll be that the smoke has infiltrated the inside of the meat while leaving that outside where it gets most hot. That outside has seared, so that's why it's the red right up under the black, because it's seared, so it's not going to change color. But the smoke, the slow smoking at that low temperature will turn the meat gray, and it'll get done. And it's quite a pretty presentation. People have told me all the time that, you know, we look at your pictures on Facebook, because I post everything on Facebook. Food, birthdays, dog birthdays. If you're on my Facebook, you'll get them. But I post everything on Facebook, but especially my food. So people will always tell me, hey, we look at your pictures and we're hungry, you know. So hopefully we'll grow this Friday night, and I'll see a lot more of your faces back here on Friday night. And tell your friends, and also if you want something, if you need something special ordered, it's not on Friday. If we're not busy, we'll do it. We'll come to you. If you got a party, you need us for a weekend, we'll come to you. Yes, sir.
The chicken, how did you, was that smoked food up there?
Yeah, the chicken is slow smoked. I started the chicken on my big smoker at 8 o'clock this morning. That's also indirect heat. And then I finish it off down here by putting it on direct heat. But you let it slow smoke. You want the smoke to flavor the chicken. And then after it's smoked for those hours, then you want to make sure it's cooked off by putting it directly on the heat. Like that last half hour when you saw me take the chicken out when you got here, it went on directly on the heat. But before then, it spent the whole day from about 9 a.m. on one of my big smokers. Yeah. And it stays tender that way. Yes, sir.
The question that I asked you about letting it sit on the spice for a certain amount of time, did you do the same thing with the chicken as you do with?
Yeah. And it really goes on how you want your food to taste. Like if you want it to taste real spicy, put those peppers on it, let it sit longer. You know, as your food sits there, it absorbs those spices, and it'll taste more like if you want a spicy taste. Also, another good thing to do is never take your meat right out of the refrigerator and put on the grill. Take it out with the spices on it, let it sit for like 35 minutes to 45 minutes where it slowly comes up to temperature before you put it on the grill. It'll cook much faster, it'll stay tender, and it'll be more moist.
Quick question, I mean, you mentioned about a dry rub.
Yes, sir.
For all the smoking, I mean, do you do anything wet, like you know, something like a chimichurri or something like that, whenever you're cooking? Or
Yeah.
yes, and if it's no, why not?
No, we use mostly dry on the brisket. On the ribs, we do a dry rub. We set it in the refrigerator, and right before it comes out, my wife has a mojo that she puts over the ribs, and that's right before they go on the grill. We bring them out with the dry rub on, let them sit for about 25-30 minutes, and then she drenches that mojo on it, and that's just a flavor she likes, you know.
Do you keep
No, no. Once it starts cooking, I try not to put any more seasoning on it because I think before we prepared it, we put the seasoning on that we want. And you know, when food is hot, you're not going to taste if you say, oh, I need more salt, more pepper. You find out when it's time to serve and you tasted it when it's very hot and done that, you'll find out that you've over salted and over peppered. So once you put the seasoning on raw, just trust yourself. Trust your instincts that know that you put enough on there and then play the game, you know. Next time, you know, maybe I need to add more next time, you know. But the worst thing to do is go in there and season while it's cooking. Because then once the meat has seared on the outside, that seasoning's not going through. It's in that first bite that you take. Yes, sir.
When I do baby backs, I usually cook them for about an hour and 10 minutes, direct up to you.
Right.
But I put pepper on them before, and I let them sit. And in the last 20 minutes, that's when I put the sauce on. I baste them with sauce. That's the right way to do it?
Yeah, well, see, sauce, is your sauce sugar base?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to put it in on the last minute because...
I use Kraft.
Yeah, and that's got a lot of sugar in it.
Yeah.
And what you don't want to do is put it on way beforehand because sugar, that sauce caramelizes on your grill and then your ribs will be black. And then it turns into what I call that cotton candy, that old cotton candy effect where you bite it and you hear the crack is because the sugar caramelized on it. Yeah. And then trust yourself too. Use sauce very sparingly, you know. If you're cooking a good rib, honestly, you don't need the sauce, you know. You'll find out, you know. Yeah, just the seasoning that you put on before. The sauce really takes away from, and this is just an old cook that's talking, you know, but the sauce really takes away from the meat. I hate when people come to me and say, hey, can I have some A1 sauce for my steak? And I'm like, really? Really, do you? Yeah. You know, and I'm sure a lot of people love A1, but it just seems like, you know, okay, you want to taste the sauce. You really don't want to enjoy the steak. So, you know, try it without sauce one time and see how it goes. And because, you know, the only time I tell people, I can tell when a chef is using sauce is because he's trying to cover something up. You know, that's when most good chefs are using sauce because they're trying to, like, oh man, I put too much of this in it. Let me cover it up with the sauce. Yeah. But trust yourself. You know, it's all trial and error. You know. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Aside from the brisket, ribs, and chicken, what else do you barbecue?
We do a smoked salmon now. That's very good, people have told me. We do sausage. We do the hot spicy sausage, Italian sausage, and that's picked up a lot of our business on Friday night, people coming by for sausage dogs and stuff. And we're getting into prime rib. I don't smoke it, but I have two big grills, and if you want prime rib, if you want ribeye, if you want T-bone, we're getting into all that now too. I did lobster a few weeks ago at a wedding rehearsal dinner, and it was our second or third time doing it, and people just bragged on us while we were there. Yeah, we did the big shrimp a month ago, and that went very well too. Yes, sir.
So for the ribs, what's the secret for the spices, for the rub and all that you put on?
It's an LJ's guarded secret. No. Our spices really is just paprika, pepper, sausage. I mean, not sausage, pepper, salt. Let me call Lisa, because she makes the rub.
Yes.
Everybody, this is Lisa.
Yes.
What's the dry rub? What's all in the dry rub that we use?
If I must tell.
If you must tell. Leave some of it out.
In the dry rub, what we start off with, and I mix it in a bowl. So of course, salt and pepper, and then chili powder. Of course, I like to put paprika. I like to put a little garlic salt and a little cumin, because we're in Miami, we like to have that little Latin flavor. And then I also like to put a little bit of sazon complete. Okay? Some people like to put a little sugar, brown sugar. We don't actually put brown sugar
Yeah, 'cause
in our rub.
that caramelizes when you're cooking, so we don't
Yeah,
do that.
so we don't do that, but I make sure that I get a good stir, and then whether you want to do it just by naked hand or with a glove. Sometimes people who maybe have a little bit of a sensitive skin maybe want to put on a glove, and then you just get that meat just thoroughly, just love on the meat. With the chicken legs, make sure you lift up the legs, the wings like that, and just get a thorough good rub on the meat and let it sit.
Regular paprika or smoked paprika?
I like a smoked paprika. Okay.
And now she's telling too much of our secret. With smoked paprika, you're halfway there. But, yes, sir.
How long are you allowing the dry rub to sit on before you're actually grilling?
On the brisket, I let the dry rub sit on there overnight. On the ribs, about 3 hours. And then I take it out of the refrigerator and let it sit for about 45 minutes before going on the grill. But the brisket is such a thick piece of meat, you want to let your seasoning sit for overnight on that. And it really depends on how thick your meat is, really, how far you let it sit.
The baked beans had a nice bite and spice to it. What, are you putting it with like a chili in it? Or?
This is the baked beans guy. This is Steve. Steve did a great job on the baked beans. Give him a hand.
That was maple syrup, sriracha, cattleman's, sriracha, onions, but sriracha was sriracha.
What is sriracha?
It's a spicy pepper sauce.
Yeah.
Sriracha. I'll show it to you.
Yeah.
And that was it was slow cooked for 2 hours,
Yeah.
about 250 in the oven.
Is it just starting with plain beans, or is it?
It had to be Bush's baked beans, just plain baked beans.
Yeah.
If you want to go old school and get the regular white beans, basic baked beans, yeah. But if you get a can of Bush's baked beans, just plain baked beans, drain the sauce, so it's not all water. And barbecue sauce, onions. If you want to get a little fancy, like I did on this one, we added a little bacon fat to the pork and added chopped barbecue.
What kind of wood do you like to smoke with, and how do you handle it?
I smoke with oak and hickory. And you'll hear people that'll say, oh, I like oak. I went to Texas one time and they said, oh, we like mesquite. We went to St. Louis one time, they like hickory. And it's all because that's the wood that's native to their area. You know, everybody uses what's native to their area. In Texas, you can find mesquite. So that's why everybody likes it. It's the cheapest thing to get in Texas, and it burns for a very long time. But mesquite has a very strong taste to it. You know, I've done brisket with mesquite, came out good. Done chicken with mesquite, came out good. Fish will not come out good with mesquite because you'll have a strong smelling wood taste in your fish, and you don't want that. You go to South Carolina, everybody likes oak. Why? Because it's plentiful up there, you know. Everybody will swear by oak. Georgia, yeah, peach and applewood in Georgia. Why? Because that's where you get it at. So there's no wrong wood. There's just wrong geography. I call it. I do in my big smoker. I just do a log about that, and I soak it in water overnight. If I'm going to use it tomorrow, I'll let it soak today. And what that does, you don't want the heat to come from the wood. You want the smoke to come from the wood. So you soak it, you let it just smoke, and it won't burn up. Your wood won't burn up, and you'll have a higher degrees. My charcoal is for the heat. The wood is for the smoke and the flavor. So, yeah. Salmon. On salmon smoking, when I do it on the smoker, I put a wood plank up under it. So it doesn't take on the taste of the charcoal, it pretty much takes on the taste of salmon. And if you buy those planks, you can buy them at BJ's and Costco's and all that. Huh? Yeah. And you just let them, you soak them in water too. That way they won't burn up. And they'll just smoke. They'll let it smoke, and the smoke will infuse through the wood up through the salmon, and you'll get an evenly cooked fish too if you put it on that plank. No. I've done salmon for no more, at 200 degrees for no more than 5-6 minutes. You know, when you see it start cracking, you know it's done. Thank you guys for coming. We appreciate it.
I apologize for I'm going to work, believe it or not.
Hey.
Chef, people, a great community of people that want to cook. It's a great place for wedding receptions, for showers, for parties, and all of this is a sort of a part of the ministry of some of the people of St. Andrews. We not only cook, but serve, clean. We just make this a welcoming place. And, you know, that's part of building the faith community, where people come, see what's here, see the love that's here, and the expression of Christ and His message, and possibly, you know, come for a wedding, come for whatever, come as guests, but see a welcoming place and probably come, hopefully come to church and find a place that's user-friendly, if you will, place to come and pray and to grow in faith. So we're very fortunate here to have the Steve Tancredi, to have Umphrey Jackson and his wife, to have many people, Bob Smith, who give their time, Steve, worked here, and it's amazing what transpires here, and it's all done for the love of the Lord, for the benefit of this parish community. So it's a great, wonderful place, a great ministry. If anybody's thinking of coming to use this facility, come and enjoy it and experience a top-notch establishment, top-notch community.
Thank you.